you want to hear some music? You'd like that, wouldn't you? Well, today you're going to get all the music you want.
The request lines are now open. KGFJ Soul Radio.
Do it now, man.
Request lines are up.
It's open, man.
Got any Blue Oyster Cult?
No, I don't have any Blue Oyster Cult. I ate 34 pairs last time around. Where were you? I was that close to working at 7-Eleven, you know.
Pass the word along. Tell the men it's time to shoot the moon.
Shoot the moon!
Not out there on the microphone. On the microphone.
Shoot the moon. Shoot the moon.
The attitude dictates that you don't care whether she comes, stays, lays, or prays. I mean, whatever happens, your toes are still tapping.
Hey, Strawberry! Oh, Strawberry. Hey, what's happening, man? How you doing? This is my friend.
Hey, how you doing, man?
What you looking at, man?
Oh, nothing. I wasn't looking. I wasn't looking at his neck, man.
Can you honestly tell me that you forgot the magnetism of Robin Zander or the charisma of Rick Nielsen?
That's kid stuff.
Kid stuff. Well, how about the tunes? I want you to want me. The Dream Police. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Build your muscles picking strawberries. You know, Band and Scoop. Maybe I could get you a job with United Fruit. I got a buddy with United Fruit. Start with strawberries, you might work your way up to these goddamn bananas. When, boy, are you gonna get your act together?
We're creating a society of cell phone crazed, marijuana smoking zombies.
Coming to you not quite live from Lukewarm Tallboy Studios deep in the land of Gar, this is Bend and Scoop, the podcast featuring music, mirth, and minutia, focused on exposing artists you probably haven't heard, but should. I'm Bob, and I'll be your tour guide on this amazingly asymmetric auditory adventure as we journey to the center of your cochlea. Welcome to episode 51. We're excited to welcome our new sponsor, Harder Concepts, the best bars in North Dallas. Visit one of the 5 great Harder Concepts locations in DFW, which include Scruffy Duffy's and Ringo's Pub, both at the Shops at Legacy in Plano, Saintsbury Tavern at Austin Ranch in the Colony, the Mucky Duck at Addison Circle in Addison, and Addison Ice House at Vitruvian Park in Addison. All 5 Harder Concepts locations have great food, live music, and an amazing beer and spirits selection, as well as a wait staff that's second to none. Whether you want to hang out with old friends or meet some new ones, there's no better place to get together and watch your favorite sports or hear some awesome tunes. Eat, drink, party harder. Joining us at the end of the show to play a round of Is That Your Vinyl Answer? And the Groovin' After Party will be our very special guest, Manfred Jones, frontman of legendary garage rockers, the Woggles, and host of the Mighty Manfred program, heard weekdays on Little Steven's Underground Garage, Channel 21 on Sirius XM. We spread the gospel of vinyl here at Bend and Scoop, so be sure to tell us all about your favorite neighborhood record store by posting to @BendScoop on Twitter or Instagram using the hashtags BendMomandPop. Our record store of the week is the Electric Fetus in Minneapolis. You can follow them on Twitter at EF1Stop, on both Instagram and Facebook at Electric Fetus MPLS, and you can check out their website at electricfetus.com. San Francisco is home to Pardoner, whose brand new album, Came Down Different, contains this great track, Broadway, on Bend and Scoop.
Fort Worth. If I could ask you how you feel, would you reply, produce a shield? Such a long time for drinking this wine that I don't know. Now my friends keep telling me that you can't drink or get drunk for free. So I'll admit, while I'm still fit of my love, that wine was the best girl I ever had. That wine was the best girl I ever had. I can't deny the feeling fizzing inside my head. All my senses wash away this blues that I've been fed. And if I could ask you how you feel, would you reply, produce a shield? Out on the street, dead on my feet, oh my love. That wine was the best girl I ever had. That wine was the best girl I ever had.
Jeff the Brotherhood from Nashville there off 2014's Dig the Classics with an ode to everyone's favorite gutter wine, Mad Dog 2020. Campfire Songs is a podcast where I get together with my buddies Todd, Jim, and Tom to share and discuss songs with each other. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at SongsCampfire and give us a listen for more great music. This next jam comes from Taylor Hollingsworth off his 2008 LP Bad Little Kitty. Here's Damn Boy on Bend and Scoop.
I'm sitting at a bar just minding myself, just staring at the walls and quenching my cares. I must look trouble cause I'm starting a scene with this big table sitting right next to me. Next thing you know, this biker with these tattoos, he says, damn boy, what's wrong with you? Cause trouble. When I was just a kid about 17, I went to school, it was a problem with me. I learned I was educationally doomed. I never turned in my assignments were due. I said, I'm sorry, miss, I forgot to do. The teacher said, hey boy, what's wrong with you? Cause of trouble. I took the girl out to a movie one night. I bought her candy and a gigantic Sprite. I think her popcorn was as big as her head. But when I tried to kiss her, here's what she said. What was it that you think you're trying to do? And slap me. Damn boy,
Have you got any messages for room 104? The name's Herman. P.W. Herman.
No, nothing right now, Mr. Herman.
My big scene's coming up, you guys!
Paging Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman, you have a telephone call at the front desk.
Yes. Uh-huh. Yes, I understand. That was the president again. I've got to steal back the X-1 before the Soviets find the secret compartment containing the microfilm. The future of the free world is riding on this one.
I'm going with you.
No, Daddy, it's too dangerous.
I invented the X1, PW. I'm going with you.
All right, let's go.
You are such a pushover.
I know you are. But what am I?
Thank you. From the burgeoning metropolis of Clackamas, Oregon, that was Dead Moon with Poorborn off their 2017 record, What a Way to See the Old Girl Go. Plausible Deniability is a monthly podcast I co-host with my pal David Miller, which you can follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Pause Deny. We post new episodes on the first day of every month. Here's a tune I really dig by Chicago's The Embryos, a single they recently released called Rattlesnakes on Bend and Scoop.
All the wheels turn, the color of your eyes, it's a crying shame that I can't stand the way you look, but I can't get you out of my dancing in the rain in her high heels. You're shaking like a rattlesnake and rolling all the bones in a line. You know what you do. You don't know why. Rattlesnakes and pantyhose are sliding in a line in the desert sun. Coyotes in the wilderness are howling in the rain, ain't got no home. You know what you do. You don't know why. You know what you do. Don't know why.
1300 Radio Atalaya en Lima. Super música en Lima.
Nick Radigan there recording under the name Current Joys with Money Making Machine from his latest release, Voyager. How Many is a podcast where I get together with my friends Jesse, Junior, Gary, and Scott to debate a variety of pop culture topics, including movies, sports, TV, music, and more. You can follow How Many on Twitter at How Many Podcast and listen at howmanypodcast.com. Let's set the Wayback Machine for 1979 for some flyover state power pop courtesy of Des Moines, Iowa's Luxury called Green Hearts here on Bend and Scoop.
Make me a deal and make it fast. I gotta know if our love will last. Make me a deal. The answer is given, max are clear and strong. Love will last, but it won't last long. What is the deal? And I can't believe what it does to me. Won't the green hearts leave us alone? Well, the calm before the storm is stormy too, and it just goes on and on and on. It lasts so long, it's sad and true. It puts the pressure of a heart on you. And I can't believe what it does to me. Won't the green hearts leave us alone? Does to me. Won't the green hearts leave us alone? Hearts so green, wanna love exciting. Can't see the wall, let alone the writing. Heart feels empty and it craves for stuffing. Baby, it's a long way to go for nothing. Nothing, nothing. And I can't believe what it does to me. Won't the green hearts leave us alone?
And welcome to the San Antonio Department of Parks and Recreation official Alamo tour. My name is Tina.
Excuse me, Tina, but could we go straight to
I tell you what, let's hold all questions until the end of the tour, okay?
But
Thank you. This is one of my personal favorite parts of the tour. Please say hello to our residents, Pedro and his wife, Inez. Inez is holding a clay pot that she seems very proud of. She has carefully detailed it with lots of paint and glaze. And Pedro is working on an adobe. Can you say that with me? Adobe. Adobe. Do we have any Mexican Americans with us today? Well, buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
Upon this battlement in 1836, 200 Texas volunteers, including such heroes as Davy Crockett, Bill Travis, and Jim Bowie, fought off an onslaught of 4,000 Mexican troops under the command of General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna. At this time, I'd like to conclude our tour, and I mean it, y'all have been one of the greatest groups I have ever worked with, really. Okay, are there any questions? Yes.
Where's the basement?
Excuse me?
Aren't we going to see the basement?
There's no basement at the Alamo.
think of tomorrow. I think of tomorrow. I think of tomorrow. I think of tomorrow.
From back in 1992, that's When I'm Not by the Magnolias from Minneapolis, found on their album Off the Hook. Have you ever wanted to host a podcast? Well, all you have to do to join the Mike Hunt and host your very own episode of Assume the Juxtaposition is send me your topic idea to lukewarmtallboy@gmail.com. You can follow Assume the Juxtaposition on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at AssumeTJPod. And don't forget to stick around for the end of the show when we'll be joined in the Groovin' After Party by our special guest Manfred Jones, frontman of legendary garage rockers the Woggles and host of the Mighty Manfred program, heard weekdays on Little Steven's Underground Garage, channel 21 on Sirius XM. New York City's The Genies want to tell you all about a girl named Amy Lee here on Bend and Scoop.
True.
How do you know good stereo? I got a lot of help from this free fact book I picked up at my Yamaha audio dealer. Gives you comparisons between Yamaha audio and its competitors. Tells you why it's significant that Yamaha exceeds even its own specifications. And Yamaha audio gives a 5-year parts and labor warranty on most models. So I figured Yamaha deserved a listen. And man, it really delivered. Yamaha audio, dynamite stereo. Whether you go by the book or play it by ear.
Objections to me. How did you manage to learn how to stand on your feet? Well, I remember it's what you see and what you believe. Just worship my hand when I was your man, and the boat you rode was out of control, so I took command when I was your man. All along. There was a time when you weren't so refined and so strong. Gave you my life and a bit of advice, clear and free. Now some of the guys got a bit of the best part of me. So warm and tender is what you see and what you believe. Was forced in my hand when I was your man, and the boat you rode was out of control, so I took command when I was your man. I've never been so blind. I never saw the sign. Forcing my hand when I was your man, and the boat you rode was out of control, so I took command when I was your man. So every time you move through the line, you know it began when I was your man. When you're on your way, remember the day I gave you the plan when I was your man.
Toledo, Ohio's Derek Anderson there with When I Was Your Man from 2017's A World of My Own. If you want to listen to all this great music without having to hear me blather on between songs, be sure to check out our Bend and Scoop Spotify playlist. If we played it and they have it, you can listen to it there. And if you enjoy listening to what we do here on Bend and Scoop, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you get your podcasts. You know, I've been on a lot of incredible journeys in my life, but nothing quite as epic as Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Warner Brothers is proud to present the story of a guy
Good morning. I'm here.
and his bike.
James Bond kind of stuff.
Together for the first time in their first big movie.
I meant to do that.
I say we kill it.
Yeah! I say we let him go.
is Pee Wee Herman.
Hello!
In Pee Wee's Big Adventure,
Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya. What? Well?
People listen to people. So listen, people.
Welcome to the Groovin' After Party. Come on in and pour yourself a cold one.
Joining me now for a Groovin' After Party here on Bend and Scoop is a little bit of an unusual twist to our normal format. We normally have guests who are hosts of other podcasts, typically music podcasts, but for the first time, we have a guest who's in a band that we have played on one of our previous episodes. We have the Professor Mighty Manfred himself, Manfred Jones of the Woggles, who we played in a recent episode. We played their song Sweet Freedom, and great song, and here he is. Manfred, welcome.
Hey, Bob, thank you so much for having me on. Let me join you guys here at Bend and Scoop.
Well, thank you so much for being on. We talked a little bit before we turned the mic on here about Sweet Freedom and about the fact that little Steven Van Zandt from the E Street Band plays guitar on that track. And that was of particular interest to me because, as I mentioned to you, a good friend of mine, Jesse Jackson, no relation to the Reverend, hosts a podcast called Said Lusting Bruce, where he is very much a big Bruce Springsteen fan. And I believe he's actually had little Steven's wife on once or twice.
Oh, Maureen.
Yeah, Maureen, exactly. So I'm going to try to kind of amp up his jealousy factor by mentioning that I've got you on here. But tell everybody not just about Sweet Freedom, but I guess what the Woggles, what you guys are working on these days.
Well, let me backtrack just for a second. It occurred to me as you were introing me, mentioning that normally you interview people that also have podcasts. And so I have one as well, but it's through the confines of Little Steven's Underground Garage. So each week, normally on the air, I have an interview segment. I have a on the air program on Sirius XM Monday through Friday on Little Steven's Underground Garage. That's channel 21 on Sirius XM. So it's Monday through Friday, and that's noon to 3 p.m. Eastern time. But on Fridays, I have like a 10-minute interview segment, and that's generally focused on whatever artist Steven has chosen to have the coolest song in the world that week. But there's also a podcast that goes along with that. And normally, whatever that artist is, I spoke to on Friday, there's an expanded or a longer version of that interview that's the podcast. And then periodically, I'm able able to do some content that's just specific to the podcast. So we are brother podcasters in a sense. There, I guess we check that box too.
Yeah, and I think we have a very similar love of the same types of music, garage rock and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Little Steven, I've found out kind of after the fact that a lot of the artists and bands I've played at various times unknowingly have actually been featured on his show as well. And I think once or twice you mentioned the, biggest song in the world that he does. I think there's been a couple I found out after the fact that were used in that segment as well. So we have very similar tastes, which is good to know.
That's right. Good taste, Bob. Good taste.
Awesome.
Well, so talking about Steven and his involvement like with that recording. So a number of years ago, well, the Woggles began way back in like 1987 in Athens, Georgia. And after about 10 years, all the members were living in Atlanta, and we continued to touring, mostly, doing stuff on weekends. But there was a period of time for several years where we did play, over 100 shows a year. And when Steven had started up his syndicated program, his Underground Garage, and I believe that's still on the air with different rock stations, but it's not the serious thing. It's a separate, like 2-hour program, the syndicated show that he has. And around that time, he also was curating a series of concerts, garage rock concerts in New York City called Cave Stomp. And so we were on the promoter's kind of radar to try and play. And we did. We played one with the Remains, but it was the only one that Steven wasn't present for. And so for several years, it kept being this kind of running joke where his office and people associated with him would tell us he's really going to come to the show. And we would go, well, if he makes it, that's great. But, the show must go on. And, we'd love to meet him. But if he's not coming, then that's fine, too. I mean, there are plenty of people here that are, right?
Yeah.
But we eventually, we played at it's a place in Brooklyn. I'm hoping don't think it wasn't the Bell House. It had some other name that maybe will come to me in a moment. But it's a great place. It had the dressing room was downstairs, and the stage actually had a curtain in front of it. And we did it was actually a great show. I can't recall whether we were playing with Lost Straitjackets or maybe the Detroit Cobras, but it was one of those two.
Oh, wow.
And
now
we were in
I love the Detroit Cobras, and Lost Straitjackets are great too. But man, Rachel Nagy, that voice, that is
absolutely, man,
unbelievable.
And so we were in the middle of that, Bill, and the show was, there's plenty of times, Bob, where, you have like an absolute terrible show and everyone in the audience will come up to you and say, man, that's the best you guys have ever been. And you're like, wow, it's like you can't argue with them because they've obviously enjoyed it. You can't tell them, no, actually, I was terrible tonight. I forgot all the words or whatever. The chords, where the guitar was out of tune. You can't tell them that. I mean, that's an up moment. So, you say, oh yes, and I am appreciative of the compliment. So then the irony, of course, is when you feel like you've just played the greatest show that you've ever done, and then it'll be crickets. I mean, you're like, all right, now I'm ready for the accolades. Bring it on. And there's nary a word. You're like, man, you people were not paying attention to me tonight. Did you not see me swinging from that rafter? Okay, so this was a show where we did the show, and that set everything was on. It was great. The band goes in the audience and all this nonsense, fun nonsense I call it, and climb up on the bars and jump off and all this stuff. But we were the side dish. We weren't the main course. So as soon as the set is over, we got to clear the stage. And I grab a couple of pieces of the drum hardware, move that to the side, and gather my harmonicas and come downstairs to this dressing room. And I mean, it's like someone poured a couple of buckets of water over me. I'm drenched in sweat. But there he is. There's the man, the great do-ragged one himself, is sitting there, not sitting, but standing there. And he's got this big grin from ear to ear. And he's like, oh, hey, I'm Steven. And I said, oh, well, nice to meet you. I introduced myself, and it was, now normally I may not have ever said the follow-up here, what I'm going to tell you, but he went on to say he saw Sam with Dave, and he saw Brian Jones with the Rolling Stones, and he saw the Animals and the Beatles at Shea Stadium. And I'm telling you, baby, you guys got it. You got it. And I'm not just sitting there blowing smoke up your ass. I'm telling you got it. And I guess I was so hyped from the show, I just put my hand on his shoulder and I said, well, that's great. What are you going to do about it? And he was, we're going to start this record label. And I said, that's great. So let's get it going on. When's the record coming out? Well, I mean, we got a few much to go. All right, so we at least laid the groundwork for that. And so we got onto his record label, Wicked Cool Records. And then later he got the Sirius, his show, his syndicated show became this 24/7 format that he uses on his Sirius XM channel. And so I wound up working as a DJ there. Okay, I've already mentioned that. So we already had this relationship with him on the label. And in 2019, our guitar player, Jeff Walls, his stage name was a Flesh Hammer. He was also the one of the main guitarists and lead guitarists and principal songwriters in the 80s band Guadalcanal Diary and a band after that, Hillbilly Frankenstein. But with us, he was with the Woggles longer than any of those other bands, beginning in 2003. But he wound up passing away from pancreatic cancer in 2019.
Oh, no.
And it was misdiagnosed, but the only upshot of it, the misdiagnosis, was that had it been properly diagnosed, he never would have gone public with it. And mind you, that can be a very painful thing, but somehow in his case, he was never in any pain, which helped them misdiagnose it. They thought that he would have to have this double lung transplant. Wow. And so because of that, he went public because they needed, we don't need to go into the ridiculousness of the U.S. healthcare system, but I'm sure you understand that.
Sure.
And so he had to beg for money to do that because the insurance they had, there was no way they was going to cover anything like this. And the good part of that was that he was able to reap the benefit of everybody reaching out to him and getting an understanding of exactly the kind of impact his music has had and continues to have with all these different people all around the world and everywhere we had traveled, and not just with us, but also with his early groups as well. And so with his passing, we decided that next thing we would do, we would invite our different favorite guitar players, guitar pals of ours to record, a bunch of recordings going forward, and we would compile those together. And the first on the list was Stephen. And so we recorded that at the beginning of 2020. I mean, just, like 2 weeks before New York shut down, right? I mean, so the virus is percolating just a mile away from us, and we had absolutely no idea. But that's when we recorded Sweet Freedom, and also an original track of ours that the bass player Buzz Hagstrom wrote called Nothing More to Say. And the B-side, which is Sweet Freedom, years ago I had reached out to Stephen saying, I believe you're friends with Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil, who are my favorite Brill Building songwriters, right, in the 60s. Carole King, Jerry Goff and Carole King, they wrote some great songs. Of course, Ella Greenwich and Jeff Barry wrote great songs, but Mann and Weil, they got the best rockin' songs, the Animals tunes and the the Raiders tunes. And so I asked Stephen if with his contact with them, is there some song maybe they had pitched to the Animals that the Animals had never done? And we would love to do it. I would love to do something like that. And well, it turned out that he had reached out to them and he did produced a solo album for Darlene Love that came out in 2015. And there's a track on there that he got from them that had never been recorded before. And they at first had submitted a different song, and he had said, well, this really isn't appropriate for what I'm trying to do with the album. And so then they sent him Sweet Freedom. And Stephen suggested, well, you want to do a Man Wild song. No one's ever done a rock and roll version of this. And I'm certainly don't have the pipes like Darlene Love does, but, you played the track, and I think we had a pretty great version, a good rockin' version of it. Yeah. And he's the lead guitar player on there. All the guitar tracks are him. And then also on the A side that we came up with, Nothing More to Say.
Both of those tracks were really great. Really looking forward to, hearing more from you guys, hopefully when you're able to get some more stuff laid down.
Yeah. So the other people we've spoken to, and we've got, as things are opening up, we'll see how the scheduling goes, but it's Greg Cartwright wants to contribute, play guitar on it, and Peter Greenberg, who's the lead guitar player, and Vance Whitfield and the Savages. We plan on in June. In fact, this was part of what prompted me to reach out to you, Bob, was you started off that episode that had the Woggles in it. You started off with the Schizophonics, who are really, really phenomenal. And Pat Bierce, who's our lead guitar player, the last tour we did was us with the Schizophonics, and he and Jeff, got pretty close, and he came up with a song called Flesh Hammer, Jeff's stage name. And we plan on recording that with Pat in June, and a couple of other songs, like a tune for a Halloween single. But there's those couple of guys, Graham Day, who is an English guy. He was the guitarist in the 80s band The Prisoners, and then later the Solar Flares, and he's also done solo stuff. He was in The Mighty Caesars with Billy Childish, but we'll do a couple of songs with him.
That's a band I've played before, the Mighty Caesars.
Oh, yeah. Well, he plays drums in that, but normally he is a guitarist and singer. And so we'll do a couple of songs with him. And there's a guy, Shane Pringle, who is a guitarist in an Atlanta band called Tiger Tiger. He plays with a lot of other Atlanta groups as well, but he's been a great help as we worked up the songs with him, and we'll also record some songs with him proper. Keith String from the Flesh Tones says he wants to contribute some guitar parts. So we're trying to keep it all, organized. We'll see how it unfolds, but that's, I hope I haven't forgotten anybody yet.
It's awesome. Yeah, Flesh Tones just put out a record not too long ago, and I played a song by them too. A lot of great bands that you're involved with there. Love it.
You're talking about Face of the Screaming Werewolf as the album.
Yes.
What track did you play?
Alex Trebek.
Oh, yes, Alex Trebek.
In honor of the late great one.
So what Keith String told me about that was that he wrote the song because he and his daughter are big Jeopardy fans, and that was part of their routine. She still lives in New York, and when I spoke with him, he was actually in Sweden. He has a Swedish girlfriend these days, and when the lockdown happened, he already happened to be over there, so he just has never come back.
Well, there's worse places to be quarantined than Sweden.
That's true. He's since started working with the Swedish band Stupidity. Have you ever played them?
No, but I'm going to have to look into them for sure.
Yeah, they've got a great song like I Need You Like a Hole in the Head. That's a good one.
It's a great title.
And another good title is A Girl Named Mo.
Like Mo Tucker.
That's right, Mo Tucker. Although when I first heard the song, first saw the title, of course, I thought of the Three Stooges. But
yes.
But you're right, A Girl Named Mo. Yeah. Years and years ago, now with her, it wasn't like a podcast thing, but I wrote for a free weekly in Atlanta and got to interview Mo Tucker, and that was pretty happening.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very, very nice woman. She was living in South Georgia at the time.
Really?
Yeah. She had her mom, for some reason, had retired to like South Georgia, and Mo Tucker was down there taking care of her.
Speaking of Georgia, you mentioned Athens earlier. Oddly enough, I've recently started reading a book about how the whole music scene really took off there in the early mid-70s called Cool Town. Just only a chapter in, but, it's just amazing, the story, because, I've known Athens was a huge music scene and hub for many years. Obviously, B-52s, REM are the big ones that are known from there, but so many other bands and artists have come from that area. So yeah, it's interesting, that you mentioned, you guys kind of having some origins there as well.
Yeah. We started there in 87, and we formed because there wasn't anything, our sort of musical world was, I guess, bands that existed at that time, like the Flesh Tones or the Liars, periodically would come through town, and the Flatwood Jets would periodically come down.
Yes,
they were based in North Carolina at the time, although they had briefly lived in Athens, but there really wasn't anything homegrown there that kind of represented our sort of rock and roll and peripheral influences. And so then we started the band. In fact, all the band members originally all worked at the college radio station there, WOG. But yeah, so like some other bands from there, like Pylon, I think recently,
yes,
a lot of their stuff reissued.
I actually played Pylon Reenactment Society. I guess Vanessa Briscoe Hay joined up with a Pylon cover band, and now they're recording new music. So,
well, I think that's really cool, though, don't you? I mean,
that's an awesome story. I love it.
And she is married to Bob Hay, who was the guy in the Squalls.
Really?
Are you familiar with the Squalls?
Yeah.
It's got a couple of cool songs, Elephant Radio and Na 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 Na. The thing about like the B-52s and thinking about the Athens scene is that there really wasn't much of a local scene when the B-52s were breaking. As soon as they had any opportunities to get out of there, they did. And it was, after they had left that they looked back and like, wow, stuff is going on here now. So really more was like the beginnings with really starting more with Pylon, that there began to be local clubs in town. And it took, a number of years before the larger student body was really taking advantage of that. It was a pretty small scene initially, but it certainly developed. And then, so after Pylon, there's REM, and Dream So Real was another one that was signed and had at least a couple of records.
I remember them. I had one of their records. Yeah, Dream So Real. I didn't realize they were from Athens.
When we came along at 87, the rest of the local scene at that time was kind of a reaction to the sort of more jangly sounds from the REM and Dream So Real. And there were some other bands in that vein, but then there was a lot more, much harder sound that developed around that time. And then that happened to coincide with the, completely the opposite diagonal of the continental U.S. at that time. So when grunge starts off, there are already bands in Athens that were comparable to that very, very heavy sound, like the Jackonuts was one of those, and there were the Barbecue Killers Brothers and so on that had much more raw kind of sound. Whereas we were, and like the Barbecue Killers, they did cover a couple of Sonics tunes, but there wasn't anybody that was just more like encompassing of rock and roll stuff. When we first formed, we made a point to cover, garage rock bands from the Southeast. So we had a version of Wild Man, which the Tamarons from North Carolina had done. Later the Picotees covered that, and plenty of bands have also done that. But we also did the Shadows of Night, 60-Second Swinger, You Burn Me Up and Down, We the People from Florida, and a bunch of garage rock stuff that was sort of representative of where we're from. Our drummer at the time, the Pile Driver, Kurt Wood, is also has always been a record collector, but since become a record dealer, and so he would sift through his records and come up with stuff to cover.
Manfred, let's learn a little bit more about your own personal musical journey. Set the Wayback Machine and play around with something we like to call, Is That Your Vinyl Answer? And we'll start by asking you, what was the first record you remember buying with your own money?
All right. So my first single was Styx's Renegade that I bought with my own money. And I won't torture you with the lyrics, but I can still sing the lyrics to you.
I love that song.
And are you ready for my first album?
Yeah.
Million Mile Reflections, Charlie Daniels, because that had Devil Went Down to Georgia on it.
Oh, yeah. That would have been like 79. I was fascinated with that song back then.
But I really did enjoy that song, man. It was just so cool,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, Bob, but the devil's music had me, I mean, Johnny rising up his bow, that was all fine. I like that. That was fine. I like that part. But man, when the devil's band jumped in, that band of demons joined in, it's like, that's cool.
Yeah, that's the part that I like. That was it, Do you remember for each of those where you bought them and if you still have them?
Yes, I have both of them, of course, because, I mean, I guess I'm not too much of a hoarder, I don't think, but I do still have those things. I mean, because they're records, right? So those were the first. I would not give those away. The single I got at Richway, there was a local department store chain in Atlanta in those days called Rich's, and their discount store, their Target, if you will, was called Richway. And so I got that in Richway. Okay. And the Million Mile Reflections, I got that at Turtles Records and Tapes. Another record store that I didn't, that later I bought things at, it's called Oz Records and Tapes. And what was so cool about this place, well, number one, it had an arcade that was part of the floor plan. You were going to the record store, but then there was also this arcade off to the side. So that was really cool. Yeah. But the pathway was, like yellow, supposed to be like the Yellow Brick Road. And there were certain things you could order. I guess it was cassette tapes. If you want a cassette tape, you weren't allowed to pull out a cassette tape because, they would scare people would steal it, but you would tell them what cassette tape you wanted. And then they would put it in overhead. They had the flying monkeys were carrying these baskets. And so they would put the cassette tape, they'd tell the guy in the back what cassette tape, and he would put it in the basket, and the monkey would fly up on a track to the front. Now, isn't that the coolest thing? That was damn cool.
That's really cool. Which band or artist albums make up the largest portion of your collection?
I have the Beatles albums because I had the box set thing, and I was given that as a gift, so that took care of that discography. And I have all the Sonics records, but they're only a handful. Really what drives me more than particular artists is particular songs, right? So, and there are periods of artists like, the Kinks are fantastic, but I do have my favorite eras of the Kinks, especially the earlier stuff, and then specific songs later on and through the 70s, let's say. But I mean, I regard all their stuff highly, but I don't have like every single record of the Kinks.
What Kink song is your favorite?
Well, what I have on my jukebox is I Need You. And what I love about that is they've got that raw kind of power chording going on, and it sounds just as tough as, to me, it's on par. Maybe not better, sure, but on par with You Really Got Me or All the Day and All of the Night. But those first few albums, all the stuff that's not just power chords I enjoy too, whether it's just sitting on my sofa, it's just that period of stuff I enjoy. I enjoy the Zombies a whole lot, and I'm thinking of British Invasion stuff, but all the Zombie singles especially are great. Just Out of Reach is a favorite of mine because Colin Blunstone, the lead singer, wrote that one, and it's just a cool groove. And he wrote like one other one, and primarily it was, Rod Argent and Chris White. In fact, Chris White, the bass player, a lot of his songs are just really, really cool that, it's worth checking out their discography. I think he sings on maybe Butcher's Tale that's on Odyssey and Oracle. Maybe that's one he actually sings on, but most of the time it's, Colin Blunstone singing. Enjoy a lot of R&B and blues stuff. Oh, in fact, I tell you what, like the Robs, it's a song from the Robs, Bittersweet. It's like a new favorite of mine. There's like just recently I finally got the first version of Get Down With It, which is a song that Woggles have covered for years, but we came to it via Wayne Cochran's version, and I know that Bobby Martin Marchand had done it originally, but I had never been able to get a copy of that, but I managed to do that. I was only aware recently that maybe like a year or so ago, I found out that Slade covered that. I had no idea that they had ever done the song. I think it's Slade and Not Sweet, but their arrangement comes from the Little Richard, kind of does a version of it, but the way Bobby Marchand and Wayne Cochran do it, that's my favorite. So it's much more song driven. Like there's this Johnny Thunders, but Johnny Thunders song, I'm Alive, that, the first time I heard that, I about drove off the road. Laverne Baker's Tiny Tim.
Yeah.
That's pretty great. He's small in size and can fit any place. Tiny Tim is a lover, What's better than, what could be better than that, So that's kind of my answer. I mean, it's much more song driven than particular artist.
Okay. The 45 collection that my mom had from when she was a teenager in, the early 60s. So one of them was the Zombie, She's Not There. I'll remember that right off the top. That was one of the 45s I had. So yeah.
And that guy's voice, Colin Blunstone's voice, is just so, it's like, wow. You listen to that and that's like that is cool. That is just definition of cool. That guy right there singing.
Manfred, who among your friends and family, yourself included, would you say has the largest record collection?
Kurt Wood, who I mentioned, the pile driver, who was the drummer in the Woggles many years ago. He definitely has the biggest record collection. And then right alongside of him was another friend of mine from Athens, Devlin Thompson, who's also an artist and did a lot of flyers and single covers for us over the years. But he, like Kurt, has a pretty huge collection. Kurt probably edges it out just because Kurt also, works record shows. There's also stock, that he sells.
Do you have a favorite record store?
Well, I worked for a long time at Wuxtree Records, both in Athens, Georgia, and in Atlanta. There's two owners, and one guy runs a shop in Athens. The other guy runs a shop in Atlanta. That's Mark Methy in Atlanta and Dan Wall in Athens. And they started about 1975. I worked for them at least 10 years, like 5, and maybe that worked out to be 5 years in Athens and 5 years in Atlanta, or maybe, some close to being on par with both of them. It was at least 10 years. I've got to really think about that if it was more like 12, but it was at least 10 years working with those guys.
Manfred, thank you so much for being on. I really enjoyed talking with you, and we're definitely looking forward to more music from you and the Woggles. So definitely we'll keep an eye out. I know you mentioned you got some stuff hopefully coming out later this year, so looking forward to it.
Thank you again for having me on, Bob. I love Bend and Scoop, man.
Don't worry about it, guys. It's all in the mix.
Bye-bye, lardass.
Bend and Scoop is a production of Lukewarm Tallboy Studios.
We will return tomorrow morning with the sun.
Good evening, and have a good life.